Welcome to IoTalks, your source for real talks with real builders in the blockchain and IoT industry. We have a special IoTalks for you today, all the way from Bangkok, Thailand. IoTeX Community Lead Alina sat down with Band Protocol co-founder and CEO Soravis. This episode is all about blockchain data, how it's sourced, governed, and ultimately used in decentralized applications. Projects like IoTeX and Band Protocol are building powerful tools across data oracles, queryable data structures, trusted computing, and much more to make blockchain truly trusted and useful. Not all data is created equal. We explain exactly what we mean in this episode. We hope you enjoy.
Hello IoTeX community and welcome to our new show. Today we have a special guest from very far away. We are right now in Bangkok, Thailand, and today we have Mr. Soravis from Band Protocol. Thank you so much for joining us.
No, thanks for having me.
Awesome. So today we hope to have just an informal chat and talk all things Band Protocol, the initiatives that are happening in Thailand, Asia, and all things blockchain and crypto. So let's get into it.
Sounds good.
Could you tell us a little bit more about your project and what Band Protocol is?
Sure. So as you mentioned, I'm Soravis, CEO and co-founder of Band Protocol. What we try to do is we want to be a decentralized data governance protocol. It's a bit of a mouthful, but what that means is we provide the framework for the data management and data handling for the apps. Right? If you think about decentralized application at the moment, none of them really have data outside of blockchain, right? And that's a big problem because that really limit a lot of the abilities for this smart contract to be actually smart, right?
Right.
For example, if you want to make a decentralized finance application, a lot of that would really depends on price of Ethereum in USD, Bitcoin in USD, price of stock, price of commodities, right? None of that really exists in blockchain, right? So what we want to do is we want to create a protocol such that we can create a reliable database of all this data, so that a lot of the decentralized application can consume it reliably.
And is the data all stored on chain?
That's right. Initially, most of the data that we want to target will be stored on chain because none of them are really would not consume a lot of the data. Right? For example, Bitcoin USD is just a key value pair. Right? Is small enough such that we can store it into blockchain and it can be easily consumed by the apps. Right? But as we grow our ecosystem, as we grow to more data type, we also exploring multiple, way to store data. For example, which is a Merkle root hash, for example.
Right. So in order to scale, right, you will be changing.
That's right.
Correct. That's very interesting. What are, for our general community and followers, what are your users or the general use cases?
Right. So again, if you think about us, there are two types of users of our protocol. Right? One is the data providers, and data providers are basically, let's say, companies or people who supply data into the blockchain at a regular interval, right? So I continue my example of, let's say, price feed, right? So this type of people maybe are exchanges, data provider like CoinMarketCap or OnChainFX, who would provide, let's say, Bitcoin in USD every 30 minutes, directly into blockchain, right? The other type of user are the data consumers. The data consumers are basically decentralized applications that need to utilize these data. Right? They are, for example, rely on price feed in order to liquidate the CDP. Right? Compound, DYDX, a lot of stable coin all depend on the same price feed. Right? What is the Bitcoin USD at the moment, Ethereum USD at the moment. Right? This data consumer basically pay a small query fee, like an API fee, right? In order to retrieve data from the blockchain. And this feed then get distributed back into data providers that create an incentive for them to sort of be reliable and provide the data at regular interval so that they receive all this consumption fee from the data consumers. Right?
Are we talking about any sort of data? And to be a data contributor, anybody can do it, like a regular user can contribute data?
That's right. So two questions there. Are we talking about any type of data? Yes. I think the scope is really wide, ranging from just price feed, event feed, for example, and what happened in Premier League, for example, so that you can create a betting app easily or prediction market easily, right? Talking about decentralized identities, for example, right? IoT, actually, a lot of data that come from IoT is sort of data that can be curated and put it into blockchain, such that it would enable more type of application to be built with smart contract. It's really flexible in that sense, right? And now if you talk about who can become data providers, this is actually quite broad, meaning anyone who stake tokens can actually become a data provider. But obviously this depends on the application, right? Meaning, in order for people or application to feel secure about this type of data, we think that there need to be two sort of incentives at stake.
Right.
One is the financial at stake, right? So I stake tokens in order to become data providers. Two, I need to stake my reputation, right? So not just regular people, but I also stake my reputation as a business that, hey, I would be reliable, right? So I can continue that in, I guess, example of data fee, right? If let's say, hey, I'm Binance, I prove that I'm Binance, and I would provide this as one of the data providers, that would assure a lot of the, obviously, the application that, hey, I know Binance aren't going to cheat on me and try to game the system, right? MakerDAO may be a data provider themselves. To say, hey, I will ensure that all this data are reliable, right?
Interesting, because like recently a lot of, I think, projects are looking into the Steemit-like approaches, right? So they're trying to like spin it off in their own way. Like EOS, for example, announced the social media initiative, which is in a way similar. I guess the idea is to give back to those who create content, right? But also by putting it on the blockchain, you're able to make sure it's accurate, right? You can trust the data, and exactly the dApps can reuse it for their own needs. Similar to, I guess, IoT, right? When we're talking about sensors and any IoT devices, we need to make sure that they're collecting trustworthy data that is accurate, because you cannot have an unsecured device out there with contradicting data that is unusable for later on. So I guess we can draw some connections.
For sure. I think data is really broad, right? And it's really applied to almost, literally every application, right? Especially decentralized application which do not have their own data.
Right, exactly. What do you think about data oracles? Like, what's your view on the data oracle? And I guess if you know any projects or anybody who has implemented the data oracle that you think is good.
So I think data oracle is almost like us, right? So we are also providing that as a decentralized data oracle. Right?
So could you say that you are in a way?
Yes.
Yes?
It's definitely one of the key pillars for us. Yes, data oracle. If you look at the oracle space at the moment, right? There are probably 2 or 3 main players at the moment, right? Oracleize is one of them because they are probably one of the first to do this, right? The problem is they are quite centralized in their approach, right? The second project, which is probably the larger project right now in terms of more decentralized oracle, is Chainlink. You've probably heard of them. Chainlink is basically trying to connect API from outside world, provide that data back into the blockchain. So almost similar to us. I would say in terms of the problem that we're trying to solve, is exactly the same. We just take a really different approach. With Chainlink, they are more of a Q&A approach, meaning every time consumers or data, anytime the apps want to get data, they ask Chainlink. And say, okay, wait a minute, I will go ask my data providers and ask for the answers. Now, it retrieve all the answers, aggregate them, and then give that back to the apps. Right? Hey, Ethereum is $200, right? That by itself is more flexible than us, so that's the good thing. The con is obviously it delayed transaction, because every transaction need to wait for Chainlink to complete. As well as it doesn't scale. So if there are 100, 1,000 of the app who ask for the same information, Chainlink has to do the exact same process for every time. Right? So think of it as a Q&A, right? Whereas for us, we take different approach, meaning instead of Q&A, or the data provider already provide the answer. So every time the app want to get this data, they just retrieve from the database, right? Just look it up. Right? So that means even if there are 100 and 1,000 of the app, it would still just consume the same type of data. Doesn't have to. The data provider doesn't have to, I guess, do the same work again and again. Right. The drawback is obviously that it's not structured. It has to be a really structured data. It cannot be any type of question. It cannot be any type of answer. It has to be really structured.
So you need to automate the information, right?
Sorry?
You need to automate the information and organize it in a way so you're able to, I guess, sort of like with AI,
That's right. You
in
need
a way,
to have a
right?
sort of standard way to encode the data. Right?
Yeah.
So it means, I guess, easier for the apps to work with this because then they know exactly what type of answer they would get.
Right. Interesting. All right, going back.
Not too much technical detail.
Yes, not digging too much into the tech stuff, although we will come back to it. But I think it will be very interesting for the community to find out more about you and where you're coming from. And I think like in every blockchain interview or crypto influencer, they all ask like, what's your background and how did you get into crypto? But it's still very interesting because everybody has different stories, everybody has different background, and this is what makes it very interesting, right? You have something unique to offer. So can we hear your story?
Sure. So I come from the funny part is even though I'm more on the business type now, I actually have a technical background. So I did computer science back in college. I did computer science in undergrad at Stanford, and then I did management science for my master's degree. So both of them are more engineering focused as well. And at that time, that's when I first learned about cryptocurrencies, because I took a course in cryptography at Stanford.
How long ago was it, roughly?
It was back, either 2012. Yeah, that was 2012. So that was
long time.
Way back then, right? Nobody really talking about Bitcoin or anything. Yes, and that was really one of the more sketchy times where when we need to buy Bitcoin, we need to like wire transfer to like Cyprus, and like the bank would ask you like 10 times, are you sure you really want to do this transaction, right? Because it's really sketchy. But yeah, things move forward. I sort of went into management background, so I went into I was a management consultant for 2 years.
This was US or Thailand?
That was back in Southeast Asia, yes. So when I finished college, I was like, hey, I always want to start my own business. I always want to start it in Southeast Asia because that's where I come from. And I really want to contribute back to my countries and people around the world. And so I moved back, didn't know what I want to do at the moment. So I was like, yeah, let's go into consulting. I would broaden my scope, apart from just technical, I would learn more about the business, right? So I did that for 2 years at the Boston Consulting Group. Right? And then at that time, it was roughly 2016, that's when, I at the side I was like learning blockchain more and decided to invest more into cryptocurrencies. And that's when I say, hey, this is the time I want to quit and I want to really pursue this full time because I think it's really a worthwhile course in terms of making the world more decentralized. Not to mention all the politics in Thailand that really motivated me to really want to start something like this.
Very interesting. So the idea was, apart from giving back to your home country, but also taking on the idea of the decentralized and kind of like power to the people democracy approach, right?
That's right. I think I became much more interested in politics and just becoming more liberal, I guess. Over the past 5 to 6 years after I started to get into blockchain, start to learn more about Thai politics and as well as I guess world politics as well.
Did it ever make you think of a way how to, I guess, put politics on the blockchain and figure out use cases for it?
If you think about Bitcoin as a politic on a blockchain, right? I mean, literally, right? It's a decentralized money where no government can control, right? True. So in a sense, that is almost like we're trying to govern our own, values. We're trying to govern our own, I guess, country, if you say, right? And that's why the dangerous part is you're becoming a tribe, just like how you see, all the conflict within blockchain space. I think it's quite normal. It actually reflects and mirror a lot of the real world politics.
Do you think Band Protocol, for example, in the future, in a way can fight for the information transparency when we're talking about that's kind of like what I meant, right? For the political parts, like freedom of speech, transparency, like in the data information, accessibility to it, and like the voting is a big one, right? Especially for developing countries. I think many of us can relate coming from those countries. So yeah, do you think Band Protocol sort of can have that vision in the future or go towards it?
I think the ultimate goal for Band is to ultimately create this reliable data for everyone, right? Not just the app, but also general consumers, right? As you mentioned a lot, you see that news and medias are being used as a weapon to attack your opponents, right? Freedom of speech are being limited, especially in this part of the world. And I truly believe that blockchain and a lot of what we work here at Band Protocol will ultimately try to enable that visions, right? To enable people to have more, I guess, freedom of speech, to actually have access to more reliable data when it comes to real world data, not being in the bubbles. It's like how you explore in Facebook and all that, right? So I think hopefully, well, it's still a noble goal far away, but I think this is a good first step.
Agree with you. How is Thailand in terms of the crypto and blockchain space? How is it friendly towards startups and tech people, I guess, tech teams who are looking to do anything and like innovate in the blockchain space?
I think Thailand is really interesting in a sense that we are actually more open to crypto than other parts of the world, surprisingly.
How is that so? Like why?
Right.
Why do you think that is?
I think partly because I wouldn't get too political, but I think partly because obviously election is coming. That's number one. I mean, election came, but
happened.
It happened somehow. But it happened back then, right? And at the same time, I think people were, especially the people at the the SEC equivalent in Thailand, much more open to this cryptocurrencies movement. Partly, I think, because there's a lot of people who are involved in cryptocurrencies and are also involved there. So it's the same group of people, right? Meaning more influential people who have more connection as well. So I think that definitely helped.
Do you think it could be because it's a different generation, maybe younger generation?
That's true as well.
Involved.
That's true as well. I think Thailand, even though we have quite backward government, we do have a really progressive private sectors. We have quite really well-developed private sectors, and I think that's part of the reason why we see strong push because of all this innovation. Government trying to push more trying to be more friendly to startups, trying to be friendly to SME and all that. So I think that definitely helped. I think it would take a lot more time for them to truly understand and come up with a real good legislation, but at least the stand toward it has been quite firm.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but currently, so the SEC equivalent in Thailand has already given a few exchanges licenses, right?
That's right.
So what about ICOs? Are you able to execute ICOs in Thailand legally or?
Yes and no. So this is why I said they have a positive stand, but I don't think they have a good understanding of it, right? So in Thailand, in order for you to do ICOs, you can legally. The only thing that hold you back is the requirement that you need to be registered with the SEC, right? You also need to go through this so-called ICO portal that has to be basically receive a license to be ICO portal. Whatever that means, because sometimes when you do ICO back then, right, you do on Ethereum, right? I don't know, I should ask Vitalik or how do I do this, right? But in Thailand, you need to go through all those processes in order to basically solicit money from retail investors in Thailand. Which is a good and bad thing, like I said. I think it does protect some of the investors. The bad thing is obviously it adds more hurdles.
Right, higher barrier.
Right, it adds more cost. All these licenses take money, it takes time. And if you are truly a decentralized project like us, obviously we're not going to have like financial statement for you to audit. Obviously we're not going to have like let's say a full-blown team and all this business plan all laid out like a normal private companies, right? Or a long history, like when you do IPO, right? Not gonna happen. But that's what they ask for, right? They ask for your financial statement, they ask you for your...
So it's kind of like legal but impossible.
That's right. So it's like legal but impossible, but hey, at least we have something. We have something to work with, right?
Wow. So what about you guys? Like, Band Protocol started 2017? Yeah? So it's been almost 2 years or over
almost 2 years, that's
almost
right.
2 years.
Yeah.
What about like funding? How did you start up? How big is your team?
Right.
And about funding, like are you getting any sort of like support or did you raise private seeds, rounds or?
So right now we are a team of 8 people, so we try to keep our team small and lean to make sure that we deliver results. But at the same time, we don't obviously have a really short runway, right? Because things in blockchain take time, right?
Yeah.
And for good reason, not just because there are too many scammers, but it takes time because a lot of the blockchain project really take on problems that are more toward research, more than finding a product market fit, right? I mean, it's a combination, and that's why it takes a lot more time than most people expect. Right?
Exactly.
And now talking about runway, we did raise our seed round back in 2018. So last year we raised $3 million seed round from Sequoia, Blue Moon partnered, which is the owner of Puppet Exchange in Korea, and one of the VC fund here in Thailand called Safe Ventures. So 3 main investors who lead the round, and we are continuing to do that. Hopefully, we will. We have our testnet launch last month, and we're gearing up for that final mainnet, as well as the exchange and subsequent listing soon. Really hit all the milestones. We really have a product live now. Actually, a couple of products as well. You can check it out.
What are your products, by the way?
What are our products?
Might as well mention them.
That's good. So apart from obviously the hardcore smart contract and the developer platform, right? We have 2 live products at the moment. One is the data feed. Right? So as I mentioned, we curate and govern data so that the app can use, right? So as part of that, we built right now 4 examples of that data feed, right? Price feed for cryptos, right? Actually, not just crypto. We have price feed for cryptos, stock, commodities, right? We have event feed, for example, sport event, and then Premier League, who win in NBA, right? Again, enable a lot of the prediction market to happen. Lottery result is also something that is quite interesting, right? How can we enable people to play, let's say, Powerball in the US, right? Enable people to actually participate in orders around the world. And 4 is the decentralized identities, still just started, so it's quite new. But we try to explore more on that idea because we think it's a big market size and a big potential disruptor almost all the apps, right? So
that's an interesting one.
Yeah, so that's the data feed product. Okay? The other product is called Coin Hatcher. This is basically a website that aggregates news, research content, crypto project profiles, founders profiles, exchanges, and curate those information to make sure that this information are reliable. So no fake news, no ICO shill, no token shill, and everyone can actually participate in this ecosystem. Meaning anyone can use the token to govern and curate the type of content being shown on the website. So if you look at that, even though it's just on testnet, people can actually participate now with the testnet tokens.
Interesting. Question, just out of my curiosity. In case if any low quality or bad content, let's say, gets on CoinHatcher, right, into the feed, the community, since they govern it, can they download it for it to be removed if it's reported as scam?
That's
how it
exactly
works?
right. The way it works is, in order for you to submit the news, you need to submit a collateral as well, right, along with the data. So if somebody challenges you and say, hey, this content is wrong for whatever reason, they provide a reason, challenge you, and you will lose that stake token. So you have incentive for you not to post something weird, not to post something like fake news, because people can easily detect that.
Very interesting.
And that's the economic incentive of how we say people can help curate the news. And the incentive is if all these token holders try to vote for good content only, that would draw more audience, that would draw more readers who say, hey, I want to come to this website because it's more reliable than, let's say, CNN, which just shut down.
CCN, by the way.
It's just shut down, right? And so
unexpected. Right. But this can actually be the answer to exactly what's happening right now, because we all know the giants that kind of like control and censor a lot of the information. So maybe that's the thing, like the centralized platforms and applications can actually give that freedom of speech, right? And be able to let the people decide what they want to see, how they want to see it, how often, right? And what they're interested in. So we don't have the targeted advertisements and just like removal of certain content. So just to check, how many currently readers and contributors are on the website, and what kind of topics are you focused on?
Got it. In terms of the content, it's all related to the blockchain industry, and this ranges from like news, daily news, to research content. So as you know, a lot of the thought leaders like to publish things on mediums, so we curate that as well as things on Twitter. So again, we have a big crypto Twitter in the world, right? So a lot of the content are being in Twitter as well. So all of this content can be posted directly into our website. So that's why we want to be a one-stop shop. right?
Yeah.
Let's say, right now I'm not going to have time to follow on Twitter thread. I'm not going to have time to follow all the Mediums articles, right? But if I want to create a world where, hey, I can come to CoinHatcher that, will aggregate all the reliable and good content for me to follow and worthwhile for me to read, right? So that's the goal. We launched the beta version last month. Now we have about 40,000 readers, basically the visitors to our website. So that's a good amount given the market is still not, the market is starting to recover. And then hopefully we pick up more stream as we go forward.
So currently the content is all in English.
It's all in English, yeah.
Are you looking to expand to more languages in the future?
We do want to expand into other languages like Chinese, Korean, the bigger market as well. But I think that's still probably a bit further away because we want to make sure that we get all the incentive right. We want to make sure we get all these parameters right. We want to make sure that we can create a reliable website first. And once that happens, then I think the language should be much easier to implement.
Any sort of roadmap for the final product, or is it sort of like ongoing process?
I think it's more ongoing. It's more ongoing. Definitely, right now it's all functional. So it's all about improving the quality. It's about improving the incentive. It's all about testing on experimenting with this. Because there's a lot of experiment to play with. What is the minimum stake? What is the time for people to vote? How do you make sure people don't game the system?
Just like the crypto economics and the gamifying part, right?
So it would take some time to configure and sort of converge into something that we sort of agree to it or believe that it will work, right? And that would take some time.
Are you taking in feedback from the community, or how can they contribute to you creating this product and kind of like be a part of it?
For sure. So I think we have an open Telegram channel. We are opening up Discord as well for developers. But right now, most of the comments are being shown on Telegram. That helps us a lot into the feedback and all that. So yeah.
Awesome. Do you have, like in terms of your Telegram and I guess going to the community stuff, are you focused more on the international communities? Are you mostly focused on the Thai market? What is your sort of strategy for the community in view?
I think we focus a lot in international communities. Again, blockchain is a global, right? It is quite global. And if you look at our target market, a lot of the DeFi projects are actually in the US, right? Actually in the US. So we do target a lot of those people in the US. A lot in Korea as well. Given one of our investors also from Korea. Right. So yes, not just Thailand. We do expand to internationally. Although we do have a strong base in Thailand as well.
I mean, that makes sense. That would be logical, right? Since your headquarters here. What about just kind of like going back, you personally, in order to stay up to date and have your hand on the pulse constantly with the latest updates, the latest news, releases, mainnets of this world, how do you personally kind of like stay on top of it? Where do you follow all the news and all the projects? Or do you at all? I don't know.
No, I do follow it. That's why I create CoinHatcher, right? I do read CoinHatcher, as well as I encourage everyone to read CoinHatcher, but not to advertise my own products. I do read and follow some of the newsletter.
Newsletters.
I think newsletter is always best because obviously that curates some of the content already, right? But it's more centralized curation. One of my favorites is Token Economy, which is good. It's curated by Stefano from. I think he's Joy Aragon now, but it's one of the best newsletters that I keep up with. I do read regular news, obviously. So I do, and I do Twitters. So I do. That's
another major source.
It does consume some of my time. Bangkok has a really heavy traffic, so that's where I spend most of my time, right, in traffic. Then I would.
Especially right now, given the rainy season, basically everything stops for most of the day. Cool. What about, I wanted to ask about the recent hackathon I think you were a part of with UNICEF, right? Could you share more about that initiative? Because I think this is the first time that you guys have partnered up and with Amisago, Band Protocol. What other projects were there?
So UNICEF organized a lot of these hackathons around the world. Right? They recently came to Bangkok and partnered with Amisago to organize the event. We were part of the sponsor to help organize and sponsor the prize, as well as participate in the hackathon. Right? So some of the projects are Status, MakerDAO, Genosis, and Message from Thailand as well, and has Band Protocol, Amisago that sort of help participate in the event. do get some of the external, I guess, local developers to come in and hack away on the weekend to create a impact solution that impact real world societies, right? And it's funny because we actually participate as well. So we sent in our small team. Our CTO was presenting, but we also sent our small team to participate in the hackathon, and we won the first prize.
Really?
It's a bit ironic. So we were like, hey, let's not show it. It's a bit weird, but yes, we did won the first prize. And it's funny because we started at the event by talking to the people at UNICEF, talking to us and told us about this problem of student immigrants who came with construction workers who have no opportunity to go to school, right? Because they have to travel constantly with their parents, right, who are construction workers. And there are actually a lot of companies who want to sponsor these students, right, to go to school, which is basically a construction company, and want to sponsor them. There's no easy way to them to manage that. There's no easy way for them to convince the parents to send the children to school. Right? And so what we built over that weekend was that we built almost like a solution where it's a smart contract where every time students go check into school, so we use a status card. So this is pretty cool. So we use all the projects that are there. So we use a status card. They have a hardware wallet that they recently launched. We use that as a student card, and then every time students can register with the construction company, right? Construction company send stablecoin, the same maker that was there, to it's a multi-sig wallet. Obviously by Genesis because they were there too. So we try to integrate all the people, right? So putting that into Genesis wallet. And then after that, every time students check in, the smart contract automatically send the money from that pool directly to the student cards, as well as to the parents, to the school, sorry. So it sponsored both the school to accept students, and it also sponsored parents, and creating that incentive for parents to send students to school, right? Because they will receive money as part of sending the money to school, right? So we built that prototype over the weekend, and it's pretty cool because now UNICEF is really, really interested. We are going to have a talk with them actually tomorrow to see how we can further the collaboration and further that. Right?
Interesting.
And Band Protocol is just to basically curate the list of reliable school, because obviously if school is bad, then they can actually cheat by taking all the student cards and shaking in and then receive all the money by themselves, right? So we do try to integrate every partners into that ecosystem.
That's a very cool use case. Do you currently have any existing partnerships or any use cases, or are you involved into any hardware production or manufacturing?
Hardware, not so much on hardware, because we do mostly with obviously the data more.
Right.
So not so much on the hardware. We do have some partnership with other projects. I think cannot publicly disclose yet, but we do so in the near future. Yes.
Okay, I think once this will sort of start moving, then awesome. That's very exciting. Congratulations.
For sure, thank you.
I was very curious to hear how the hackathon went, just because of the program that was happening around the UNICEF, and I think it's a great initiative to do such things around the world in different cities and involve local projects. So that's very cool. Another thing, so IoTeX, for example, we are focused on the computation part, right? So private computation on the edge devices, as well as creating and manufacturing our own hardware. Since you're also involved into the data area or business, right? Industry, however you want to call it, we're super big on privacy and security. In terms of Band Protocol, what's your view on privacy and security? What are some of the ways that you are faced with it, and how do you ensure that the data is private and secure?
Right. So again, I think for us the version 1 in terms of privacy is actually quite simple. Meaning we just store most of the sensitive information off chain, right? And only the encrypted or the root is stored on chain for verification purpose. So there would be no way for people to actually reverse engineer and figure out the data. That's version 1.
Right.
We are trying to collaborate with other projects when it comes to full data privacies, on-chain data privacies. I think it will take a lot more time for a lot of projects to get there. But we want to start collaborating with them. Right? So Enigma, for example, doing secure communication with the team, right? With the secure enclave of Intel.
Right.
We also trying to explore that as well. Since you mentioned IoTeX, also working on the data privacies and securities, would love to talk more because I think this is something that would benefit the entire industry.
Yeah, definitely. And this is something that, we did a soft launch of this at this time of the recording. We have a product that will be coming out soon. It's our own in-house development board called AvaBoard, and basically the idea is to do computation, private computation on the device. So it can be also a gateway to it can sync and connect to your IoT devices. You can use it like that, and there will be a few more use cases that we will release in the white paper. But the AvaBoard also has the TE chip installed into it exactly for this need, because you're able to do private computation, that all the data coming in is encrypted, it's computed, and it gets out encrypted as well. So there is no way for the information to be leaked or anybody else to access it. And you're able to ensure that the data is accurate, it's reliable, right? So if you're, for example, if we're talking about like medical use cases or like dealing with IoT devices like bands and devices that like measure very vital parts of our health, it's crucial for that information and like for those numbers to be accurate. So our board is just like one of the ways, one of the tools to ensure that the devices are collecting the accurate information. All right, so I would like to thank so much Soravis for making it. It was a pleasure meeting you here in Bangkok, Thailand, and I'm sure that we will be in touch exploring more opportunities for collaboration and also making innovations and changes in the blockchain space. So wishing you good luck.
Thank you.
Any last words or wishes to our community?
Right, the last word, thank you as well for the invitation and honor to start as the first guest, I guess, in Bangkok.
Yes, this will be the highlighter for the Asia.
Right, so I think that's good. Last word for communities, I think, obviously, I think a lot of people are looking into the blockchain space, with skeptics, right? With skeptic eyes, right? Now people start to say, hey, will project delivers? We really get to that because obviously with the price crash, right?
Yeah.
We're still here. I think we're still here. I think all of us still have really high hope and really have a lot of high goal to achieve in the next couple of years. Sure, it will not take 3 months. It will not take 6 months as many other projects or people promise. Everything big takes time, and I think we really need the support of communities, whether you be just regular communities, like people who just follow the projects, whether you are developers, looking to get into the blockchain space, whether you are just traders, we all welcome you, and I think it's always good to have communities who not just support you, but question you and really, help to balance
challenge you even.
Challenge you.
Yeah.
I think that's always a good thing. So really glad to have all this initiative with IoTeX. Hopefully more of this initiative with other projects as well, to both educate the communities and get more participation from the communities, because I think that's a really big part of successful projects. Right?
Definitely.
So thank you for watching, and hopefully you continue to support. Hopefully we'll talk more in terms of collaboration, not just in terms of partnership, but maybe we have some more activities between our communities, for the other communities, as well as IoTeX, and see if we have some more campaigns together. That'd be great.
For sure, yes. And that's why I'm very happy that Soravis has this sort of insight and view on the community. And it's definitely a pleasure having you here and sharing your insights and your knowledge, because we're doing these interviews, these sessions for you, our community, in order to show you the different projects that exist in the space, the use cases that they're focusing on, different regions, how the blockchain and crypto space is evolving in different parts of the world, to also, I guess, maybe inspire some of you to contribute and become the early adopters of the technology, of the idea, to get on board and even start creating something on your own, or contributing to existing products that you like. And definitely I like the ask questions, challenge, test, get more involved with the founders of the projects, and don't hope for, I guess, an easy gain, because with an easy gain there's always a drawback. So you have to It's about the tech, and I think all of us are here because of the technology behind it, not so much the make money fast and like, I don't know, get rich in your 30s or sort of thing, right? It's not about that. Any big technology innovations or any world innovations that did take time, they failed many times before they were improved. And even the internet and the social media and all the things that are already familiar to us, we didn't understand them. At the beginning, everybody was like, what is internet, right? We had no idea because it was a new concept. Similar right now to the blockchain space and the projects that exist and the ideas that they have, things that they're building, it's not yet second nature to us. So it's going to take time for us to get familiar with it, to understand it more, but it's about having these sort of environments, collaborating with each other, being open, not closed projects, and not sharing your insights or opinions, skills that you have. It's more about being very community driven, very open-minded, active, easy to reach, right? I think reachable is another thing that you're able to get the CEO, the co-founder of any project on Telegram, or have them have a chat with you and tell you more about their project. So yes, please do support us, give it a like to this video, and we will definitely prepare something interesting for you in the future in order to reward you for your time and attention. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you again.